Hello, World Schooling families. Do you wish you had more opportunities to connect with others who understand the unique joys and challenges of traveling and learning on the go? Hi, I'm Susie, and I'm excited to invite you to a special virtual World Schoolers meetup happening Friday, August 8th at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. This is a chance for parents and kids alike to meet, share, and build community. We'll start with warm introductions, then move into small breakout groups to foster deeper connections. We'll finish up with a big group gathering, and the best part is you can join us for the whole hour or just pop in when it works for you and your family. To join this wonderful gathering, check the show notes, look for upcoming events on my website, or grab a calendar link directly from my Instagram bio. Can't wait to see you there. Also, if you're in Denver, Colorado, join us for the in-person World Schoolers Picnic on September 28th from 12 to 3. Look forward to seeing you. Now let's get on to the episode. Hola and hello, I'm Susie, and welcome to the Wander World School and Slow Family Travel podcast, where we discuss the stories, logistics, and finances of long-term traveling families and the multitude of ways to learn and world school along the way. Today is the 5th Thursday of the month, so we get a very special bonus interview. Today I'm joined by Mark, my husband. We will discuss his childhood in Germany, how we ended up in Spain, his thoughts on world schooling, and more. Thanks for coming to the podcast, Mark.
Hey, Susie. I'm excited to be on the podcast.
Happy you're here. So Mark has
Me
a
too.
fun background story. He was born in Germany, has 2 older siblings, and a wonderful mom, Astrid, my mother-in-law. He has an interesting story about what brought him to the U.S. and kept him in the U.S. for a while, but I'll let you tell your story, Mark.
I was in 10th grade and I decided I wanted to do a study abroad program. So after 10th grade, I decided to go to the US. I decided I wanted to ski and snowboard. Ended up in Colorado, a single host father, and everything was great and awesome. And my mom heard that I had a good time and decided to visit us over Christmas. And she hit it off really well with my host father, and they fell in love. And then they got married a year later. And then I never went back to Germany.
When you came over, you probably would not have ever expected that to happen, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, today we're pretty much like a modern day Brady Bunch. My stepfather, I mean, he has 5 kids. I'm one of 3, so we're 8. So when we get together, it gets pretty wild. I definitely did not expect to go on a study abroad and gain 5 more brothers and sisters.
Yeah, and I love it. They're an awesome family. And we were just in Berlin visiting with our kids' cousins over there and aunts and uncles. And then we actually are in Colorado and just spent time with some of those cousins over the last few days. So I love the story. You have a great family. Very happy to be part of it. I want to go back to your childhood in Germany, though. What is a core memory or a feeling that comes to mind when you think about your childhood in Germany?
I grew up in a very small town, and I remember vividly riding my bike around town for hours and coming home late at night. But in the meantime, I would have visited all my friends. I would say very peaceful childhood.
How many people were in your town that you grew up in?
It was 40,000, but it was we were in a small neighborhood near that town, Kleve or Cleve, like Anne of Cleve, who married Henry VIII.
And there's a lot of millennial nostalgia for the life of biking around town for hours. So I think that's kind of fun to realize that that's what other teenagers back then were doing in Germany as well, not just here in the US.
I'm not even saying teenager. I mean, that's the difference between Germany and the US, or maybe old time USA, where I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and my parents would just send me outside and with my bike and say, have a nice day. And I remember one time I got stuck in a tree with my leg, and the neighborhood had to saw down the tree to rescue me, which, I mean, rescuing is maybe an exaggeration, but it was definitely people would solve problems as they come up.
That is adventurous. Presumably you got down.
Yeah, after they cut down that tree a little bit.
So you moved to the US when you were 16, right? Or was it 17?
I was barely still 16.
And what was the biggest culture shock for you when you first moved to Colorado and started school in the US?
Well, Germany and the US are plenty similar. I don't think I really experienced a culture shock. I've had culture shocks before, but surprisingly not when I came to the US. But I remember commuting to school from far away in the US, taking classes all day in English and participating in sports every day. And that seemed more like a full-time job compared to German schooling. I had a lot more downtime in Germany.
So, like in Germany, you had time to bike around and get stuck in trees. And in the US, it felt like you were a little more involved in school and go with different activities and events.
Yeah, competing for the school spirit and the school's pride. And there just wasn't any of that at a German school. In the US, you would represent the school in all your activities, chess or sports, drama, whatever it is that you did. And yeah, so it seemed like a job.
I think that's interesting because I know the high school you went to is pretty small. And so even there, they had that culture around representing the school and maybe competitiveness that you feel like was not really part of your schooling in Germany.
Maybe even more, right? I mean, small schools try to stand out. For example, our school would talk down on other smaller schools. It would stand out.
So even more reason to try to be proud of your school when it was smaller almost.
My school in Germany was huge for
Mm.
German standards, was big. It's about 4 times bigger than the American one. I only know American school life in a small school with 200 students.
True. And you experienced formal education in both Germany and the US for both high school and university. What's one thing from the German school system that you wish like kids in the US could experience?
I did appreciate all the rigor at German schools, but I would also say that it's not as enjoyable as the American system, maybe for the same reasons. It's rigid and rigorous schooling in contrast to the US system, which is, US system promotes broad liberal education with greater flexibility. It seemed like in Germany, you would have to work hard to get on a certain track, to get on the high university track, and you didn't want to fall behind to potentially miss out on opportunity to go to college. Well, for example, I had to reach a minimum GPA to even be admitted to my exchange program in the US. So there was always a lot of benchmarks along the way.
And was that also the same for university? Because you did a undergrad degree in the US and a master's in Germany. Do you feel like there was those similar differences in terms of rigor and the US system being a little more enjoyable, a little more flexible?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's very similar because the German university system would not have allowed me to come back and because they didn't accept a US diploma. So my few options were staying in the US and paying the expensive US tuition or going by myself to the Netherlands where they would accept a US diploma. So in the end, I said, fine, I'll apply to the University of Colorado, and if they don't take me, I'll go to the Netherlands, which, Netherlands is awesome and fun. So that would have been a good plan B. I got accepted to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and so yeah, so I stayed in the US.
I think the funny part is if I had gone to CU Boulder, which for a while was my first choice university since I grew up in Colorado, there's maybe a chance we would have met because of like your stepbrother also going there. We would have been in the same program, but I ended up going to Wyoming and we didn't meet for like another decade or so. So I think it's just interesting how
Yeah.
things work.
That's really funny. I think we would have been best friends.
Oh, best friends. I think we were so different probably in college though. Well, who knows? It would have been interesting though. I
We
was
would have
not
met at my
mature enough to
brother's.
like
Yeah, we would have met at my brother's college parties.
yeah, I would have remembered every one of them then. So, how do you think growing up between two different cultures? I mean, you mentioned the US and Germany are similar in some ways, but they are still different cultures. How has that shaped your perspective on traveling and also raising our kids abroad?
Since we don't really have deep roots in either Germany or the US, I mean, by definition, roots would keep you in one place. I want our kids to take advantage of that freedom and explore the world. I mean, we're essentially now raising world citizens, which means they can cry in 3 different languages, but in an accent that's better than mine.
Very true. You're right. You obviously spent many years in Germany, but then really haven't spent a ton of time there as an adult. And then in the US, you've been in different locations. I mean, Colorado has been mostly our home base there for quite a while, which is a great state. We love it for lots of reasons. But There's so many awesome things about getting out and exploring the world too, especially for kids who are young and flexible. And I know my listeners have heard my reasons for starting this journey, but I'd love for them to hear yours. What was the tipping point? So we first went to Spain about 2 years ago. What was the tipping point for you that made you say, yes, let's trade our stationary life in Colorado for one of travel?
Yeah. I mean, I know you have traveled a lot, and I did a lot of traveling before we got married and had kids. And then we spent 10 years in Denver, and I just felt like it was time to move on again. I just got bored in Denver, and Denver is an amazing place, Colorado in general, right? We love we love it here. We love doing all these things. It's yeah, it was just time to see something else. And then when you mentioned let's go to a Spanish speaking country, it's like, okay, cool. We both speak Spanish and it's important. And I heard Spain has beaches and I like beaches and I romanticized about Spanish food and wine. Little did I know they drink more beer.
And that the food is not our favorite.
Hey, that's a secret. Nobody needs to know that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be good without being your favorite.
There's only so many tortillas, which is that Spanish omelet with potatoes you can eat in a day.
Or as our son calls it, the yellow cubes.
Yeah, because they cut them into little cubes.
Let's be honest. What was your biggest fear, though, or your hesitation when we first moved to Spain? I know you were excited about it too, but what was like a hesitation you had, and how does that fear or hesitation look to you now?
I was worried if the kids will be able to keep up in Spanish school. That was really that was it. I was not worried about traveling. I'd done a lot of traveling. The kids had done traveling. It was pretty much everything surrounding the school. Also, how would we be received and would we understand the school system? It was all so new. But in the end, those worries weren't warranted because everybody was extremely welcoming at the school in Sevilla, and the community is great. The parents are fantastic. So it was, yeah, sometimes you just make up certain fears that don't come to fruition, luckily.
That first day, dropping the kids off at a school where I was like, they don't really speak the language of everyone there. Now, the German part they spoke, but at the same time, the other kids were learning German.
Yeah,
I was like, what did we just do? But they've adapted well. I think between the three languages, definitely the kids got by before they were able to pick up more Spanish. I am ever in awe of people like yourself that speak three languages, or a lot of the people around Europe that even speak more. It's always going to impress me. But from your perspective, what has been the most challenging part of choosing to live outside either of our like home countries where we grew up?
It's navigating the bureaucracies of traveling, obtaining visas, getting your registration, getting your bank account, getting your phone line. I would say sometimes it can take a solid 3 to 4 months before you have all your ducks in a row. And then on top of that, you're trying to make friends and have fun. And it's just sort of like bureaucratic speed dating in a different country.
Very true. And I would say we even had the easy button, I say, when we went to Spain because you have EU passports. So it just was more of a logistical hassle in some ways. And we also outsourced it. We hired a great immigration lawyer to help with it. So really, we just had to get her what she needed. So I can only imagine there are other countries, other circumstances, other people that have encountered even more bureaucracy in Spain and elsewhere that I just can't imagine what that stress is like.
It's funny because we have different experiences and stories because I remember we started out together working with a lawyer. The lawyer would set out the plan. Then for 2 months, I would go to this immigration office or local registration office, and they would tell me, oh, you need this form. And I fill it out and I go back and like, oh, you also need this form. And just like week after week, they would tell me I needed new forms. And then finally I had all my forms, got my registration done. Then finally you could find your part, and I was done.
And for context, that took about 5 months from starting to when I got my residency visa. So it's one of the reasons that once we did all that, we're like, we need to take advantage and stick around Spain for a while longer.
No, that is so right. You said, let's go to Mexico now. And I just thought all I could think about was the visa process and whatnot. I was like, please not.
Yeah, Maybe someday it's still on my radar. At this moment, you have a remote job that is a non-negotiable when it comes to needing fast, reliable internet, which is definitely something that has come up for us before to make sure that we can have that in place because that is really important. So, how does that requirement impact how we choose our destinations and accommodations, especially when we're doing a little more mobile travel than when we're just in Spain? How does that work out for you?
Can, for example, spend a whole week in a camper van, and in Airbnbs, I need a small office. Also, some vacation homes sometimes don't even have internet. Remember, what was one of the last beach vacations that we did with my
Yes, in the south of Spain. I remember also one time when we were in Yellowstone on that big Canada road trip, and we thought you could work from the lodge in the middle of Yellowstone, which did not have any internet.
Yeah, it's stressful sometimes. Like, you guys are out there expanding your horizons, and I'm wondering if I packed my Ethernet cable. Even though you are a remote worker, you still require a desk and a quiet space. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I traded an office for a Zoom call where I hope that there's no crying child in the background.
For sure. I'm trying to make sure that I pick places that accommodate you and it's not always easy, but I appreciate your flexibility when needed. And then also majority of the
No, you
time
did a
that,
great job. You're doing a great job. You're
yeah,
doing most of the
but
trip planning, so it's just it's a learning experience, right? You're used to a certain setup at home, office space. You know what it takes. Podcasting, you like to have your setup and so on. It's very similar. And then as you travel, you realize what you have maybe lost. I mean, you have gained all the freedom of travel and exploring the world, but you still need to find that quiet space where you can concentrate and do your job.
I think that's a metaphor for parenting is that it's going to be a little messy trying to mix in
Hmm.
work and travel and how do we keep every person happy while also, choosing to live the life that we've been where we do travel, we do spend time out of our home countries. It's just not always perfect, but it's a work in progress. If another parent was thinking though, like, hey, I work remotely, I want to spend more time traveling, what's one piece of advice that you would give to that parent?
I would say you can't always do everything with your family, potentially when they're out and about, going to museums and so on. So find your own experiences in the neighborhood, like a good coffee shop or do a scenic jog, walk around. And sometimes you just have to do things by yourself because maybe the kids are in school or, maybe on a time zone where your work starts later. So try to get in some sightseeing in the morning with the family. Then you go to work and they will continue.
The schedule that you typically work in when we're in Spain from like noon until 9, with usually a break for like dinner, actually works pretty well because you do get that time in the morning. And then in the evening, we're busy. And then the weekends, we have all day off to do things. So I love this schedule where we can do weekend adventures, longer weekend trips, or you take some time off when we do like Morocco or things like that. But for the most part, we have a pretty good family routine with school and adventuring and you working. Seems to work really well.
I
So
like it too. Taking the kids to school in the morning, then heading to the gym, getting breakfast, all that before my workday even starts. It's amazing.
yeah. And there were so many of those like perfect sunny late morning coffees that we could just relax and enjoy right by the school or by the gym or by our new apartment. So I love those. From a financial standpoint, we've been on this family money journey for over a decade now, and we've been married for almost a decade. But kids and traveling adds additional layers to the money part of it. You know that I'm the one that tends to track things financially and nudges us in our shared goals, even though, of course, we talk about them together. What's been the biggest surprise or adjustment for you in managing our budget or our expenses on the road versus when we were living in one place beforehand?
Cutting back on certain luxuries, like not always having a car, can be a challenge sometimes. It's also fun because I remember at the end, I had to go to the Carrefour, the grocery store, and we didn't have a car anymore. So I just started renting bikes. I was like,
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna give this a try now. And at least I have the app now. But yeah, you just try new things, cut back. by cutting back on transportation pretty much. Opening new credit cards for airline points. I think we're doing that more now than we did before. Of course, we just open them and then we close them. We don't really accumulate any debt on it, which is a good thing. And then if our kids are learning bad words in a foreign language, at least it didn't come from us. It's also a big surprise. They learn and they're picking things up from all over the place, and it's in a different country, in a different language, in an accent that's probably way better than mine, in authentic Andaluz.
The palabrotas are what they call bad words there, cuss words or whatnot. And you realize, though, there's times that I may not know that they're saying one of those words because I don't even know what it means. And how has traveling full-time changed your role as a papa, as a father?
I'm a lot more present, and living near the school definitely helps with that. Having more family time is a huge win. Not having to commute. That goes also back to the remote work. A lot of it can be also achieved if you stay in the US, I think. But being in a new time zone helps. If you usually work in the US and now you work in Europe, you have more time in the morning for the kids. Whereas in the US, your work schedule competes with the kids' school schedule. So you're always overlapping.
I do agree that cutting out a commute, whether that's just remote work or living really close to the school in Spain, which I just love, like a 4-minute walk to school, that is so much easier than navigating sometimes those longer commutes in the US that just really just sucks time out of your day and time together as a family.
Because everything you do is intentional now. You pick the school that you want. You pick the apartment near the school. Based on that, you make sure there's a gym. You make sure there's a coffee shop. You're putting a lot of thought into your life for the next 2 weeks, month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is. But it's very intentional, and you're trying to make it the best experience you can have in the time that you have. So whereas if you're at your old apartment or house in the US or wherever you live, you've accumulated certain habits and routines for over 10 years. And yeah, they're hard to shake off. And so you're in the same rut for a long time. And by going to Europe, you just release the shackles, and you just do it all the way you wanted to do it.
It's like throwing everything up in the air and then making it land how you want it to land instead of you trying to fit into the pieces and the parts of the big puzzle that is living in the US. I also think that, like when we did the pop-up in Sarajevo, we picked a place that was pretty close to it. So you're right, like when you travel, you can be more intentional about consolidating the most important things that you do during the day to a certain location, and it just frees up mental space and time to really enjoy that time together. And if we ever did more like a gap year, longer term traveling, I think we would be able to choose where we live and what schooling and stuff. And it would be kind of the same as what we're doing now in Spain, and that just that ease and that proximity. Not that travel is always easy.
Exactly. If you make a mistake in your planning, at your permanent home, in your permanent city, you can't easily backtrack on it. Oftentimes that's a decision you have made for the next year. Whereas if you make a mistake traveling, then you screwed up for a week or two. You can learn from it and improve on the next stage, right?
Very true.
You live and you learn is a lot easier to implement and live by when you're traveling than when you're at home and you have all these things established.
Absolutely. I think even from last summer when we did a little more fast travel around Europe, around Germany and Switzerland, and trying to have you work a little bit there, we adapted a little more this summer, and in Berlin had a little better apartment, hopefully at least a better office as part of it. It was still a trade-off because it's a big city and it wasn't huge, but yeah, we live and we learn, and we can pick better places next time and keep making improvements to what we each need to be content with our lifestyle.
Yeah, like 3 stars in Morocco, like 3-star hotel in Morocco is maybe a 0-star hotel in reality. They're making stars up as they go.
Yes. Yeah, some of the places I picked were great and some were not so great.
It's part of the adventure.
I have to make sure the kids don't like get too soft on us and only long for a life of luxury. They have to stay in some pretty shady places every once in a while to appreciate the nice ones. But speaking
Well,
of
the shadiest, speaking of shady places, right?
Yeah.
In Laramie, Wyoming. Any hotel in Morocco is still better than the Laramie Inn.
I know, that was so bad. I can just
Sorry to all the listeners from Wyoming.
Yeah, I know.
You have some terrible hotels.
I spent 4 years in Wyoming, went to college there. So I feel like you're right. We can knock on them a little bit. But
Okay.
no, that hotel was terrible. There's some nice ones somewhere there. Just not any right by the highway. So what's a skill that you've seen our kids develop though since we moved to Spain and traveling more that they probably would not have picked up or learned if we had only stayed in one place so far in their lifetime? What's the skill that they've picked up?
I think they have an appreciation for learning many languages now. They've definitely gained that. They're not just surrounded by, I mean, in Sevilla in Spain, they go to school and they learn Spanish and German and soon also English. I mean, they all have English classes as well. But on top of that, they like to listen to the Eurovision Song Contest and all the songs, and that's in many different languages. So, I mean, you've seen them sing along to Icelandic songs and Italian songs, and it's just cool to see. It's amazing. And yeah, and our oldest child, kid, he wants to go to Italy now because he loves pizza so much. And all these things where I just don't. Maybe we never instilled that same excitement for states here in the US. I don't know. Just never heard Lars say, "Man, I can't wait to go to North Dakota."
Offense to all the North Dakota listeners.
It's beautiful. We've been there.
Yes.
He just doesn't. He doesn't say it. Yeah. He asked when we'll go back to Florida, but
That's what I can say. Never. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
But
Apologies to all the Floridian.
we're pissing off everyone in the
We can't never. You can't come back here.
I know. What's something that you learned about me or our partnership that you might not have learned otherwise if we hadn't also opted for more travel?
You're an amazing trip planner with a vision for new and exciting locations, I would say.
Good.
You're also very, yeah.
You read my notes really well. I'm just kidding. No, keep going.
Okay. I mean, also amazing podcast.
Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah, for all the listeners out there.
Yeah, I know. Go give me 5 stars. No, just kidding.
It's the best. Yeah, are you on Google?
No, Google doesn't do podcasts. It's just Apple and Spotify and Pocket Casts and a lot of other ones.
I listen to you on Pocket Cast.
Yes, it's the best. Best player.
Oh, you're also very good at managing our rental home in the US from Spain and dealing with all the craziness.
Yeah.
When things break, and things do break sometimes. Yeah. So you are a world travel podcasting manager.
Oh, perfect.
And I love how you spend most of the time with the kids so I can work when I have to work. Yeah. Oh, just amazing.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to highlight this part and save it forever.
You can include that in the podcast.
Okay, great. And now we're managing our Spanish rental from the US. And no, it's not always easy. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing, but it is just a logistical part of choosing to travel that I've realized it's worth it to us to still have to deal with some of these things, to have the freedom and flexibility to travel and be out of the US a lot of the year. It's also gotten a little easier just getting into habits and finding the right people. And I certainly vent to you and get your opinion. And I do get you involved quite a bit.
This is interesting. We are subletting.
Yeah.
We're not just managing our Spanish rental, we're subletting our Spanish rental, which is, I think,
that's true.
It's like next level.
I know. Very meta.
Traveler. Yeah, very meta.
Have a rental and then be renting that out.
Return back to the US.
Yes. Where we haven't even been into our home yet. Yes.
Which is like we're living in some sort of parallel universe.
Yeah. And we have people from the US there for sure.
And people US living in our sublet Spanish rental.
And dealing with all the communication with our landlords in Spanish and paying them and dealing, yes. But, again, I actually really like our place now in Spain. It makes me excited to go back. So it is just part of the process. Managing multiple places is not always easy. And, I think there's people in the world schooling and family travel world that have thought about this as well. And I want to explore more of these where you can buy or co-live or something and have more stability. Like you only go a couple of places around the world, and then you kind of go back to your place, but maybe not this same level of managing. So I'm going to look more into that just because I'm curious. But what advice would you have for families who want to be more nomadic? They want to world school, either full-time or part-time. What would you tell them before starting out?
Your plan will never be perfect. You just need to go. We had so much doubt before we left. Of course, it was easier for us or for me because I lived in Europe. And so it was a little bit like coming home, but still, you worry about your house, your apartment, your belongings, and all those things, where to put them. Should your house be rented out? Should you sell your home? Or maybe your lease is still running and now you have to wait until your lease runs out in the US or wherever you're coming from. And once all the stars are aligned and everything falls in place, just go. If you have set yourself the goal of going and leaving and living in another country, save up some money to make it a little easier while you're there, which is also a thing we've seen it. So on one hand, I'm saying just go. But I feel like there's some essential things that you need to have figured out. Where's the money coming from? Do I have enough money? And for that, I guess they could talk to you because you're such a good financial trip planner and you laid it all out for us. So I think you're like the perfect person to talk to about this. But yeah, just have all your ducks in a row. Not all the ducks, but have all the important pieces together. Where's the money coming from? Where will you live? What do you want to do while you're there? But then just go.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good balance. Like there's certainly things that have to be squared away a little bit, but then don't overthink every piece of it. At some point you do just have to go because you're going to figure it out on the way. You're going to learn on the go what is best for you, what is best for your family. And we've pivoted a lot and I think people are just forced to make different changes, but you really don't know until you go. Yeah, the first time we left, we were still putting like a new toilet in from a basement flood like 4 days before our flight to Spain. So the plan will never be perfect, but
we still decided to go.
Yeah, and we still decided to go.
Because I said, even if this toilet is not installed by the day we leave, we'll find somebody who can do it, like later or whatever it is. And I don't know if it's a sign, but the basement has not flooded since we left. Yeah. So maybe it's better that we're not there.
That was a lot of stress. But yes, get a few things in order and then just hit the road and go. That is great advice. And as we continue this journey, what is a dream or a goal that you have for our family's travels in the next few years?
Settle down in Spain for a few years and then explore other parts of the world. I think that would be amazing. I think I'm ready for more sun in Spain again. And then exploring cool places.
What are some other places in the world that you would like to take yourself, take the kids?
Let's back up. You took us to Morocco and to Albania and Montenegro and Bosnia. I never thought in a million years that I would visit any of those countries anytime soon. Never really. Didn't even cross my mind. But those have been some of the most amazing places I've been to in a long time. I definitely opened up my mind. Morocco, for all the cultural and socioeconomic differences, was eye-opening. Where I want to go?
Yeah.
Back to your question, I think the kids and I and you, I think we're all on board. We want to go to Japan for the culture, the food, the sightseeing. I would love to go back to Australia and see the West Coast.
Perth. Yeah, that's where my uncle spent like 2 or 3 years teaching way back in the 70s. I could just imagine how they must have felt like they were at the end of the world going there, before all the modern day ways to stay in touch, and how remote it feels even now, but even more so then.
We just can't shake off that arid landscape. Colorado, Andalusia, Morocco, Western Australia. Maybe we'll go play to a place with trees.
I mean, that's one reason I do love Germany, I think. I'm like, it's so green here. And then it rains and you're like, oh, I see why.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
trade-off
I mean,
for
yeah,
sure.
you never asked me early on. Maybe we need to start this podcast over. You didn't
Oh,
ask me why I left Germany.
well, to study abroad.
Yeah, why did I want to study abroad? Because it was always raining in Germany.
Oh, yeah. You wanted to get out of there. I know. It was so funny in Berlin. I was the one out in the rain with the kids and our pop-up, and you were the most aggravated about it. I could tell that it hits a nerve with you, the German.
Yeah, I was sitting inside working, so I wouldn't even have left.
And you
I
were
was still
feeling our
bitter
pain.
about 10 days of rain.
We had a couple really good days of weather on the pop-up. Everyone is super flexible. That's why I love the pop-ups. Everyone is willing to pivot because it's not any one person's fault that the weather is not cooperating. Like that solid rain at the Cordoba one in March was an adventure as well.
I'm trying to I'm trying to talk the kids into pre-college in Germany when they're 18, 19. And all I can think about while I talk them into that is I'm thinking of the 180 days of rain in Germany.
Yeah.
At least in my little hometown.
That would be probably the biggest shock for them spending like university years in Germany would be the weather. Not the language, thankfully, not the traveling around Europe part. It would be oh, wait, it's not a beautiful Colorado winter or a Spanish winter. Yeah, we should.
Yeah, should I feel guilty?
No, because it's free college. But we should talk about that on like a future podcast about the whole, just all those options. But you have some really good ideas about that. And you really like to tell a lot of, especially people that are approaching university in the US, just all those opportunities are available over there for affordable education, 3 years undergrad. So yeah, we'll talk more about that in a future.
Tune in for Mark's German college experience podcast and learn more about how your child or you can spend a college education in Germany for free. You just need to bring a little bit of money so you can pay for living expenses, but you're still allowed to work part-time.
So you went from being on your first podcast to now wanting your own podcast. I have done my job. You are convinced to quit your job and join the world of podcasting with me. Just kidding.
Just stay on the line. My episode is coming right up.
Yeah, coming right up. Okay. Well, I'm sure I will get you on a future 5th Thursday of the month where we can talk more about all these fun things. So I'll wrap it up for now. Thank you for joining me, Mark. I appreciate it chatting with you in this totally different environment than we've ever chatted before, on microphones in separate rooms in the same house. But this has been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Okay. So I hope to see you again soon.
See you soon.